Hello and welcome to the session. Now we will proceed for another very important type of file is basically Excel file. So Excel file is commonly very commonly used for data exchange and uh, at least from the test automation perspective for different kinds of framework, we have to pass on different set of data to the user to the automation framework, and that is where it is most reliable and most convenient to use Excel file. So let us understand. Now we have in Excel file, we commonly know there is a spreadsheet, workbook, there is a cell, row, column, cell types and all. Uh, Now how to programmatically read this Excel file, write something into it. So how to process it basically. So we have multiple libraries available which are openly available and free to use by any third party organization. So we'll be using a library called as Apache POI library. It is basically from Apache Foundation, and then they have given it as an openly available library for everybody to use it. Now, earlier generation of Excel file, .xls extension, they were used to be parsed using this Apache POI library with a format called as HSSF format, which is supporting up to Excel files up to Excel 97 format. Now, after that, Microsoft has upgraded their format. So after Excel 2007 and onwards, it is basically XSSF format, which supports .xlsx file. Okay, if you see a sample example, so everywhere the extension is .xlsx. So we will be seeing .xlsx format only, why? Because the earlier format, which is up to Excel 97, which is HSSF format, is no longer preferred to be used in projects. So we will be seeing only XSF format. Now this is a slight comparison between XSF HSSF and XSSF format. There are some advantages and benefits. So this basically upgraded Microsoft file format support. Now, what we will be doing programmatically when we interact with Excel file is basically we will read some cell value. So cell can be the value of the in the cell can be a number, float, boolean, string, and other things. We can read the value. We can set the value. If there is a cell which is empty, then we can write something it. So that is basically called as creating a cell and adding a value to it. Uh, we will do kind of like row or cell height setting, width setting, font changing and all, alignment, row shifting. So these are the different operations are possible using Apache POI libraries. So these are very basic operations. We will also do like basically for automation purpose, what we need is basically we want to read the Excel file row by row and in a different data set. So we can read it as a 2D array list, or we can in the 2D array list we can include the header part and the actual value part. We will see with an example. We can read the Excel file row content in a hash map with header and specific row, or header and specific column, or some business requirement. We can also read the Excel file as a hash map where header and specific column ID. So multiple things are possible. So we will explore and see what are the things which are possible in using Apache POI libraries. So I have this sample Excel file wherein there is some content. So if you see line number 2, where there is a integer, there is a negative number, there is some text here. Now there is also one text here. This is a float number. This is Boolean, again some text, and there is some color. Now what we will do, I'll just close this file and let's see with an example. So to use the Apache POI library, we need to import some external jar files. Now with this, on this link there are a lot of jar files available for this Apache POI. So currently I'm using 4.1.0, which is fairly stable and it supports multiple features. Also there's one more library called as filio, using which also we can pass the XLSX file also. We will see that for a specific requirement, but the very popular library is Apache POI only. You can download the jar files, or if it is a Maven project, you just have to use this dependency. Okay, so HSSF format, sometimes also called as horrible spreadsheet format. XSSF is XML spreadsheet format, which is only for Excel is X file. Now workbook, sheet, row and cell. So workbook is a file, sheet is basically individual sheet in that Excel file, rows and cell. Now there are some custom methods which I have designed. So basically for reading a cell, uh, get cell value. So I need to pass the Excel file path, the sheet name and row and column. And once I get that, I will be getting that as a object of XSSF cell class object, and that will have to be again converted into a specific, let's say integer or date format or string or boolean and so on. Now the change here is the way to do is you will get it in the XSSF cell, and then you have to use integer dot parseInt, and this is a date format cell value, and you will get the integer here. Okay, get extract cell type. So you also have to know what is the cell type, whether it is a string, integer or whatever, and then ultimately you get to know the actual value of the cell. Now what is the inside logic for this get cell value? Let us look into it. Get cell value, so I have proper documentation for all the methods here. Now get cell value is basically you need to read the file as an file input stream, pass it on to the XSF workbook object. Then XSF workbook, you need to use the get sheet for that particular sheet, and you need to check whether the sheet is null and the row number and column number are within the range. And then one simple line of code, basically worksheet dot get row dot get cell, that will give you the cell value in XSSF cell object type. Okay, and that is what we will be parsing here. That is what we will be parsing here, cell number. Okay, so let's just run it and see what is happening. Okay, so actual cell value is minus 8000. That is what we have seen, the integer number earlier. Okay, so now let us read the other cells as well. Okay, so I have other cells which are type string, which are type float and boolean and blank, just white space. Okay, so let's just run it once. Right, so cell value April new, which is of type string. Cell value is this number, which is basically float number, and cell value is true, so it is a boolean. So true converted is true, and cell value received is actually blank or just white space. Okay, so these are the different types of cell types which are very common in your day-to-day requirement. So we can reuse this same method as per the business requirement. Of course, these other statements you can drop off as per your requirement. Now we have done reading. Now we will be writing something. So setting the set cell value on an existing sheet, existing cell. So if the Excel is there, if the worksheet is there, and if in that row and column there is some value, then I want to change it. Okay, I want to update it. So this is possible using set cell value. So let us go inside, and if you see here, it will just do first any cross check whether the worksheet is valid, it is null or not. If it is null, then it will actually create a worksheet, create a sheet there, and it will create a cell, it will create a blank cell. So if let's say if the cell exists, the row number and column number are within the range, then you get the cell. And now how to set the cell value? You have to check whether the cell type is of type integer, float and string and etc. And if for whatever type you want to set it, then you set it using set cell value and set cell type and set cell value. So this is how you can make it for integer, float, uh, yeah, string, blank if you don't want to write anything, and boolean. Also we have different types. Other types is data, so we can enhance that this method for supporting date type of data, but for normal operation this is sufficient. Okay, so basically these two lines are the one which will be repeated as per the requirement: set cell type and set cell value. Okay, so let us see what is happening. Okay, so now you see, instead of positive with negative 8,000 it will be positive, instead of April new it will be April, instead of minus 9.56 it will be positive, and instead of true it will be false. Okay, if you see here, these are the earlier examples. 9 minus 0.56, April new, and all those things, so that will be replaced by this new values. So this is basically uh, updating the existing value to a new value. Okay, it is done. So let's open the Excel. Right, so this positive value April new is changed to April, it was true, now it is false, and this was negative, now it is positive, and so on. Okay, now another operation is set cell value on a new sheet on a new cell. Okay, so this way I am creating a new sheet, and on that new sheet I am actually creating a cell somewhere, and in that cell I am inserting a value. Okay, this is different than this where it is value is existing, I have just changed the value. Here it is creating something new. So what is it doing? Set cell value is basically it is creating a worksheet, and it is getting the get row get cell, and it is again doing the same thing: set cell type and set cell value. But the only change here is, if the sheet doesn't exist, then it will create the sheet and it will create the cell. This is important: creating a cell, creating a fresh cell, and then adding the values to it. Okay, if the row doesn't exist, it will create the row. If the row exists, then it will create the cell. So multiple things this method is doing. Okay, so multiple ways of creating a row or cell it is doing. So based on multiple condition it is doing. Okay, so let's run it and see what is happening. So before that I would want to check whether the sheet is there: employee data new. So this is the Excel sheet, so there is only employee data sheet is there, so it will create employee data new sheet. It's done. So let's see, a new sheet will be created, employee data new, and new cells will be created. In that cell values will be inserted. Okay, update each test result. Okay, so now yeah, this is one. Okay, this is important from testing automation perspective. So I have this file called as test cases xlsx. So test cases, yeah, this one. Okay, so now if you see, let me just delete this. Let me just delete this content. Now this is a simple example of where you are uh, you are executing on an automation suite and you want to update the results. So again the same thing here, again similar example. So you want to update pass and fail in this particular statement, so that is what it is doing. So for a particular row and column number it is saying pass or fail or whatever. So this is a file, so that file does not contain any pass fail now. So let's just run it and see what is happening. File excel test cases .xlsx. Okay, it has done, finished. Let's open the file. Right, so it has updated pass, pass, fail, fail, and so on. So that is a simple use case, a business use case for test automation perspective. Okay, now something about the cell styling. So what is cell styling? So cell styling, we will use Excel simple. Okay, now cell styling is basically setting the row height, a specific row height, uh, all height of all the rows, height of a specific row, column width and all. Individual cell style we can do, we can change the font, uh, we can set it bold, italic, and so on. And we can do a wrap text. So if it is having, if it is not wrapped, I will wrap it into the visible area, then vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, and so on. So this is all about cell styling. So what value I'm putting? So let us say this file is yeah, Excel simple. So Excel simple, right? So now there's, yeah, there's no extra cell here. So what I'm doing, I'm adding a cell. I'm adding a cell at row 7 and column 3, and I'm applying all these cell styling. So height, width, individual cell style, so font and other things. So let's just run it and see what's happening. Okay, it has finished. So let's open the file once again. Okay, so it has added this sheet. Okay, now if you see, it has some specific height and width. It is bold, it is italics, and there are some other cell styling. Bold, italic is there. This is the content. This yeah, you can set some color also. Font is, yeah, this is the font. Wrap text, so I have wrapped it. So if you see, if I unwrap it, it will be like this. If I wrap it, it will be like this, right? Alignment is like that. So vertical is top, so vertical is top, and horizontal is left. Yeah, horizontal is left, and so on. So you can control the cell styling here also. Okay, now shifting rows and columns. So here I am using shifting operation.xls. Shifting operation. Okay, so if you see, there is one uh, row which is highlighted and one column is highlighted. So column E and row 10. So I'll be doing column shifting, and I'll be doing the row shifting here. So this is also possible using Apache POI. Now, yeah, so row shifting in this Apache POI version has a bug. So it deletes the row in question. So row shifting with this Apache POI 4.1.0 version has some limitations. So maybe you can use the later versions if you want. But row shifting and column shifting is not a very common operation. So you can use the same thing. Okay, so the how to do it? So basically, worksheet dot shift rows, worksheet dot shift column. So in the shift column, yeah, start column, end column, and you need to specify by how many columns you want to shift. So you want to shift it by -1. Okay, so shifting can be done for one column or multiple columns. Shifting can be done left or right hand side. Yeah. Again, you can do row shifting also. So shifting can be done for one row or multiple rows, and shifting can be done above and below. This has some limitations. So for now, let us do the column shifting. Okay, so what is happening is this E column will be shifted here. I think D and E will be shifted by uh, one column left. Okay, let's just run it. Okay, it has done. So shifting operation file name is shifting operation.xl. Right. So if you see uh, CDE is shifted by 1. C is shifted by 1. So B column is actually overwritten. B column is content is gone. So C is at B place, D is at B place, E is at D place. And if you see, this has remained as it is. I mean, this has, the content is wiped out, but the color and styling has remained the same. So this is basically column shifting. Similarly, row shifting can also be done, but currently there is some limitation. Okay, this is not happening when I've checked. Okay, so this is about shifting operation. Yeah, now this is important. Okay, now for automation needs, basically for automation needs, what we want, let's read this, read data 2D array list. So what file it is using? Excel path. So I'm using file Excel data employee. Okay, let's open the employee data. Right, so uh, whenever we probably are doing data driven testing or behavior driven development or any kind of an automation need, we want to read this row by row data for certain test scenarios. So what we want is, we want to read this in a 2D array list. Okay, so what we want is, basically we want this header to be present, and let's say the data for this particular line to be present in a 2D array list. So that can also be done using this RL, using this Apache PUI. So how it can be done is, basically I need to pass the path, right? And I will give the sheet name. So sheet name here is data. Sheet name is data. Let's see what it is doing internally. So it is reading the file, reading the worksheet, and it is basically in a, so what I'm expecting here is basically an array list of object into another array list. Okay, an array list of object into another array list. This is correct. This is perfect. Now what is happening here is, I'm reading the data, reading the, getting the workbook, getting the worksheet, and from that worksheet, for each row I'm getting individual row. Okay, for each row I'm getting individual row, and that I'm filling in an array list. Okay, individual row content I'm filling in one array list. So if you see array list dot add, and I'm adding the count, the count of the cell and the cell content. Okay, row dot get cell. Okay, and I'll also print it for the sake for understanding. And after that I'm adding this row also. Okay, so I'm individually adding one row, and I'm giving an index of row here. So this is basically array list of array list. Okay, array list 2D, which is array list of this one individual row. Okay, let's just run it and see how, what it is appending into the array list. Okay, so same thing what we have seen in the employee data, right? So employee whatever number, employee name, gender, salary, location. So same thing it is reading in the array list of array list. Now how to uh, process that array list of array list further, it is up to you. How do you want to parse it? You want to get a specific row data, or multiple things you can do with that array list of array list. Okay, now next is, okay, read header. So earlier was read header. What is header? So the zeroth row is basically the header. Now here read header and all the data in a 2D array of object. This is important when we are using test-ng data provider annotation. So this will be uh, ready-made used in the test-ng annotation when we see test-ng topic. Now what we are doing, instead of array list, we are reading it in a 2D array. Okay, array of type object. It can be array of type string, but considering that there can be multiple data here. So numbers, characters and string and all. So that is why it is an array of object, array of 2D array of objects only. This also you can process further based on your requirement. So what is happening here? Reading in a 2D array. So again, I am initializing, I'm getting the worksheet here. I'm getting the maximum rows and maximum columns, and I am just putting a two for loop structure where I'm just filling the individual row and column of the 2D array. Okay, and that is what I'm returning. Okay, I'm returning a 2D array. This is very straightforward, very simple. Now, having a 2D array and having an array list, it has both has their own benefits and disadvantages. So it's up to you, whichever you like, you can use that. Okay, so let's just run it and see what it is printing. So it is printing Excel file Excel data employee, the same thing for the employee, same Excel, right? So in the 2D array, you will also get the same content. Okay, now see here. Okay, so here read header and a particular row. This is important. Now, what happens is for particular business requirement, for particular test case, let's say we want to go for this data. Now, I don't want all the data of all the employees. So what I want is basically this header and this particular row. So this is also possible. What I have to do is basically, yeah. So let's say this is a banking example. So let me open the file for banking. Right. So now we are doing some automation related to some banking projects. So you have some banking customer ID and a lot of banking related data, which is just another file with some rows and columns. Now you want, let's say, this one and this one. So you don't want other customers data for specific business requirement. So this can be done, but here I have used the hash map. Okay, if you see the hash map, so I'm reading the banking XLSX and I'm reading the data particular row. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm passing the Excel path, the sheet name, and a particular row index. So in this case, I want the row one data should be available in a hash map. So row one data will be in a string and object. So what is the string? It is basically the header. Okay, if you see here, this is the header. So this is your key and this is your value. So key is this, value is this, key is this, value is this, key is this, value is this, and so on. So which is very good in terms of having a specific row data, because that can be used for a specific test case. Yeah, so here I'm printing the hash map. Let's just see what is happening here. So read data row. So here what I'm doing is I'm getting to into the worksheet, and what I know is basically I know a particular row index I need to read. Okay, so I'm reading the entire worksheet, but I'm reading it only for header, the zeroth line. I'm reading it only for the header and a particular index. Okay, and that I'm filling in one hash map. Okay, that I'm filling in one hash map. Okay, so there's a hash map of string and object. So put the key and value. Okay, once again, I'm reading the header, the zeroth row, and I'm reading, let's say this one. So I'm reading, putting the key and value, key and value in the hash map. Okay, I'm putting the key and value in the hash map. So I'm filling the hash map, obviously. So in this case, I'm not filling the hash map for any other row. I'm filling it only for a particular row. Okay, so let's just close it once and let's just run it and see what is happening. Right, so if you see that you're getting key and value, key and value. So this is a value for a particular row only. Okay, particular row, Lucy Jack. Right. So this is about reading the data in a hash map, but only row, particular row. And this is where I'm printing the hash map, which is a very simple function. Yeah, now this is a different example. Instead of banking, I'm reading the job site. Okay, so let us see the job site example. Yeah, so let's say you're doing automation for a job website, job related website. So there you have the data of the candidate who are uploading the resume and all. So similar, some columns and dates, some columns and rows. So that's what I'm doing. Right. So let's just run it. And so you will get data for index row number 3. Okay. So this is a hash map. So you will get key and value pair. Okay. One more example for e-commerce. So e-commerce is very simple to understand. So you're doing an automation for an e-commerce website. So you're passing a data for an e-commerce. Okay. So e-commerce, you have customer gender, address, order ID, order value, order status, and all. Okay. So let's just run it. Right. So again, a key value pair. Okay. Now what other things are possible? So read header and a particular data row for a specific unique ID. Okay. So what is the specific unique ID? What is happening here? So if you see, the specific bank ID is bank 34099. So in here, what was happening in earlier cases, let's say bank example, here what was happening is I was passing the row index. Okay, I will just uncomment this. Okay, so here I am passing the row index. Okay, so let's say banking example, banking, yeah, banking. So I'm passing a row number. Okay, instead of that, if I know the actual ID, can I read by the ID? I don't want to pass the row number. I want to pass the ID. Okay, so almost similar thing, but I just want to pass a ID instead of a row number. Okay, so that is also possible. That is what is happening here. Instead of row index, what I'm doing, I'm passing a ID here, an ID here. That's it. Okay, so here it is reading the data with a unique ID. The only change here is basically it will check whether the unique ID is there, and it will find the row index. Okay, so this is an internal structure. It is up to you how do you want to do it. But then this is a slightly different thing, that you want to read a particular line with a particular ID. Okay, so internally it is, for that ID it is finding the index, and for that index again it is stuffing the hash map. Okay, it's just a slight change. Okay, so let's just run it. So I have done it for banking, I have done it for job site. So for job site, the ID what you're passing is a candidate ID so and so. Let's just run it. Right, so this is for the banking with the bank ID 34099. Yeah, 34099, and candidate ID for job site 34101. 34101. Okay. Now what next? So read cell value for a particular data row with specific unique ID in the zeroth column. Okay, this is also one of the use case. So what is happening in the e-commerce, e-commerce. So what I want, once again, what I want is read only a cell value. I don't want a complete row. Okay, I want a cell for a particular row where with a specific unique ID in the zeroth column. So what I want is in the zeroth column, I will pass on one customer ID which should be present in the customer in the zeroth column, and for that particular matching customer ID, I just want the information of a particular column. Okay, one more time. I will be passing a customer ID which is obviously in the zeroth column. If that matches, then let's say this is the matching row, then I don't want the complete row. I just want a particular row, a particular column value. Okay, so this is also maybe one of the use case. So what I'm doing, so specific customer ID, specific column name that I'm passing, and it is a specific column function. So obviously here I will first find the row which has this customer ID, and then from that I will find the column name, which column name is order ID, and I will get the order ID value for this particular customer ID. Okay, the same thing what we have seen in the Excel file. Same thing for data, employee data processing requirement. So what I want is I want uh, for this particular employee ID, I want to know its salary. Okay, I don't want the complete row information. I just want employee salary column information for this particular employee ID. Right. So this is the yeah cell value for banking for specific customer ID. This one specific column order ID is this one. Right now for employee ID, this one salary is this one. Okay, so yeah, depends on business need, we have designed this method. Okay, you can, what is unique ID here? So what is happening here? So first I'm finding the column index, and then I'm finding the row index, and for that row and column I'm just filling the data, filling a cell value, and I'm returning that. Okay, fairly simple to understand. So here obviously I'm not filling a hash map because I don't want the complete row information. Right. Dump database result to database result set to Excel. Let's see what is happening here. So here yeah, let me just change it to different thing. Now this is basically what I'm doing here is basically I'm checking a database. So for simplicity, I've used a SQLite database. So what I'm doing is I will be raising a select query into a database table, and whatever output I'm getting, that I will be putting in an Excel. Okay, this is also one of the use case that you want to read the data from database and you want to put it in the Excel, and that Excel will be a reference for your test scenarios. Okay, this is also a very good business requirement. So let me just show you the database content what I have. I'm just opening one command prompt cd. Okay, and SQLite 3. So there's a SQLite 3 database already. No, name is TonyDB. And this is a command to check what are the tables present. Right, so there's an employee table, and select star from the employee. Okay, so now it has 3 rows and there are 4 columns. So this data is the output of a select query. That data I want to insert into one Excel file. Okay, so that is what is happening. So this is the data here. Now for that, what I need to do is basically I need to connect to one database. I need to raise the select query, and whatever output I get, that will be in the result set class object that I will be parsing individually and inserting into an Excel file. Now this database processing, how to handle database, select, insert, update, delete, those kind of operation, we have a separate session on this. Okay, but for now, for simplicity, I have used SQLite 3. Okay, so now for now I know there are 4 columns and 4 rows. So I have taken a 2D array, but it is up to you. You can take hash map or many other things. Okay, remember for this, uh, Yeah, for this you need to have that particular jar file. So this is the ready-made classes we have, and okay, never mind. So that particular jar file we need to have to process the data from a database. Okay, once again, what we are doing, we are dumping the result set from a database to one Excel file. So first part is to connect to a database, raise the select query, select star from employee. So this is SQL here. So for now, this part is can consider as this will perform the database query operation, and ultimately I will get the data in the result set. Okay, so I will get the data in the result set. This is the result set here. Okay, and for every row I will be iterating and I will be getting every row's data. So employee ID, employee name, salary, and I am for now I have filled that in a 2D array. Okay, it's a 4 by 4 2D array, and I'm just printing it for the sake. And second part is dump the 2D array into an Excel. So again, this is a simple operation. We have seen how to set the data in one Excel file and how to process it. Okay, so this is one file called as filedb to Excel. Filedb to Excel. Yeah, filedb to Excel. So if you see, it is empty for now. Let me just close it and let us see what it is doing. So it is creating yeah, so you get a workbook, you get a worksheet, then you have to create a row, and you have to, for that row you have to create the cell and just set the cell type and cell value. Okay, so for now I know there are only numeric and string, but it can go up to boolean and many other things. Okay, so these combinations we have already covered, but for now I'm just mentioning it in for simplicity, right? So then you close the file and that's it. So let's just run it and see what is happening. Okay, so something wrong. It is D drive doesn't exist. Okay, yeah. So this is a D E drive, right? So this is what you got from the database, and this is what you are putting in the Excel. Your workbook already contains the sheet DB to Excel. Okay, so okay, so let me just remove it, save it, and close it, and run it again. Right. So now let's open the Excel once again. In the DB to Excel, it has written the content which it is received from the database. So this also is one of the business use case. Okay, so this is done. Convert the Excel content to PDF. Okay, interesting. Now we have this Excel file, uh, file Excel text cases, PDF to Excel. Okay, so this is converting test case Excel to PDF. This is also one of the good business case that you have written your test cases, you have updated the Excel with pass and fail, and now you want to convert that to a PDF. This is also possible. So now I have this Excel file here. Okay, I have this Excel file and it has some test cases which are pass and fail. So I want to convert this to a PDF programmatically. So how it can be done is basically you have the Excel to PDF file here, the file name and the path. Now what you do, you have to use this document, which is in one of the imported class statement. So this document is basically inside this com.itext.pdf. So as we have seen, for PDF handling, I am using the itext PDF library. So I'll be using a document there, object from there. Yeah, PDF writer.get instance for this particular file, and I have to set some margin as a housekeeping requirement, and you can set the page count and all. It's up to you. Now vertical orientation or horizontal orientation. So for now, let's see the horizontal orientation. If you want to set a specific page size, you can set a rectangle. Okay, document open, and then you need to have a PDF table where you will get the Excel file row number, last column number and all. Now here, since there are 7 columns in the PDF, so below array is of 7 length. Okay, every column width you need to specify, and then set total width, set total width here, and individual PDF cell. Again, individual PDF cell, you will have to use the iterator here, row iterator. Basically what we are doing is the Excel cell by cell, the cell, every cell in the Excel we are converting into a PDF. Okay, with some housekeeping information like column width and rectangle and the orientation, page size, etc. So if you see the page size, I have set it as A4. Okay, and I'm doing a horizontal orientation. So once we see the PDF, then it will be bit clear. Okay, then for every cell I'm checking whether it is numeric, string, boolean, whatever, date, format and all, and I'm doing a PDF cell. Okay, PDF cell, I'm doing a parsing, and that individual PDF cell I am putting in a PDF table with an alignment, and ultimately this PDF table I will be adding into the document. Okay, so this is how you convert a very simple few rows and columns from an Excel to PDF. Okay, so let's just run it once. Now there can be other things like you can have vertical orientation and other things. Let's just run it. So we'll expecting a file called as Excel to PDF, Excel to PDF output, right? So yeah, Excel to PDF output. So now if you see, the orientation is a bit different and the Excel file content are available in the PDF file. Okay. Yeah, of course you can enhance it. You can put it different colors and some decoration and all, but simple thing. Okay, now so previously I have done it for other type of files. So horizontal orientation, this is the horizontal orientation itself. Then this is the vertical orientation. So if you see, the page looks like a vertical orientation, and it is bit compressed, and the margins are a little different, and it is kind of a wrapped text here. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to do it. Now this is an example of test cases built in 2 pages. Okay, so this is a very original case where it will be, if you directly convert it into a PDF, Excel to PDF without any alignment and other things, this will be into 2 pages. But this does not look very appealing and does not look very fancy. So that is why we need to use this, other piece of code. So margins, set page size, uh, column width, and other things. Okay, so it's a not a very hard code to understand. It's very simple to understand. Okay, so this is about converting Excel to PDF. Okay, next is process Excel like a SQL query. Okay, so we have this banking Excel. We have seen it some time back. Okay, so in this case, what we can do, we have one additional library called as filio, as I've explained here. Okay, so with this filio library, you can interact with Excel just like a database. So just like you raise a select star from employee data query, here also you can raise a query based on the column name and all. For that Excel, get the data and then you can process further. So that is the advantage in filio. Let us see how we can do it. Yeah, so this is the sheet name. So this is the file name, sheet name, specific bank ID. So the select query would be, let's say, select star from the sheet name, or another query would be select star from the sheet name where customer ID is this. Okay, so anything is fine. Let us see what this read data unique ID select query method. So what it is doing, it is creating an object of filio class. Okay, and it has a get connection mechanism almost similar to how do you connect to a database. So you have to connect the database. So get connection, basically it will open the file itself internally and it will execute the select query. Once you have the select query, just like your database output, you get a record set, you get a result set. The filio will return you a record set. Record set is a class inside the filio library. So using the while loop, just like your how do you iterate through a result set, you can iterate through a record set. So record set get field customer ID. So for every field, you will get the value. Okay, and then you close the connection. So almost like a similar to a database connection uh, for processing the select query using filio for an Excel. So first I'm raising this query select to, then I'll be raising this select query the for all the lines. Okay, let's just run it and see. Right, so for now I'm requesting only one row where customer ID is this. Now what I will do is I will raise the query which is for all the rows. Okay, right, so I have information of all the rows from that Excel file. Now remember, this select query, similar to select query, we can also go for update, delete, insert, those kind of operation also. This is a very fantastic idea to consider the Excel as a database, and you can process certain uh, you can process as a database itself. uh, okay, filio library is also kind of popular and also used for multiple projects I have seen, so you can leverage on that. Okay, so one last point to check here is the in the testng XML, we will see in the further sessions, we have a annotation called as data provider where we want to read a particular Excel file based on some rows and columns. So this filio library or earlier multiple examples what we have seen are the best suitable implementation for this data provider implementation. Okay, so we have seen numerous examples here for reading the Excel file, writing Excel file, reading into a 2D array, array list, reading into hash map, and plethora of things we have seen. We have also seen how we can do using this filio library. So yeah, so I think that is very good for Excel handling. So the remaining topics, yeah, so we have seen a dump database into an Excel to PDF. We have seen process the Excel like a select query, update query using Filio library. So we have seen a lot of things. So I hope this is useful for your the Excel processing needs. The other topics we will see in the upcoming sessions. Thank you.